You're on.
You're on, Walter.
Walter, you're on mute.
All right.
Yep.
Welcome to the Rockland Board of Sewer Commissioners meeting, Thursday, December 3rd, 2020. Please be advised that this open meeting is being recorded by WRPS for playback on demand within 24 hours of this event at wrpsrockland.com. Please note that any persons other than those included on the agenda will be muted. Would all participants please utilize the mute function when not speaking? Thank you.
Make a motion, we open the meeting.
I'll second that. All in favor?
We gotta go through that open roll again, even though it's just you and I. Yes.
Yes.
Okay, make a motion, we approve the meetings of the previous meeting.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Approve the minutes of previous meeting. New build-out figures.
Jock, is that something you wanted to go over? You wanted that on the agenda?
Yeah, I just, again, I'm gonna keep going over some things that need to be said that, on the new build-out numbers, the one thing I'm gonna disagree with is the, on the one pending on the school. That school is gonna be, and just hear me out, the school is gonna be larger to accommodate future demands. So we're gonna still have to account for that gallonage. And also, you would know better than I think there's still plans to keep the McKinley and Eston on the board open. So we're gonna have to accommodate, we're gonna have to account for that gallonage. You agree?
Are you speaking of you're talking about the new elementary school, right?
Right. No, that's just one, but there's some things I want to go over on that.
Yeah.
Not just the school. I was running some numbers and we're going to be getting into this a little later on the budget, but I just want to point out something that just on the approved projects, we've just approved 21,900 gallons, which by regulation now and by ordinance, our own ordinance, we've got to remove 242,000. Now, what we've unapproved, less Lydia Square, because that was a different animal, we've only collected fees of $16,200 to deal with I&I. Now, if we have to go remove the 242,000 gallons per regulation, our average cost per gallon over previous SSES studies is $1.15 a gallon, which means we're only going to be able to remove out of that 242 in Utopia 194,000 gallons, which means we're going to be short of our goal. To meet that goal, we've got to come up with another $223,000 of funding for meet I&I. Now, just pending, we have 40,500. I took 5,000 gallons out for the new school, but we still have to remove 468,000 gallons. Now collected, because the school doesn't pay, we're only going to have, and I'm including Zero Pond, $405,000. With that $1.15 a fee, which means we can remove 352,000 gallons. Now, looking at the numbers, we're going to be 115,000 gallons short of our goal this year.
I don't know why.
We're be real careful.
Don't want that. I don't want that.
Huh? You have, sir, you have to mute your, Gigi, you have to mute.
Mute it.
But we're gonna be short of that goal, quite a bit of money. Now, we cannot take money out of I&I because we agreed on it back in July, excuse me, for repairs. So I'm just running the numbers for this year for what we've got approved and pending. We're gonna have to hit the town up for $360,000 just for I&I. That's not counting repairs. So the build out figures are one thing, but we still have got to plan on how we are going to accommodate that. And we do not have a plan in place, flat out. I mean, if we have to remove 241,000 gallons by the regs, what's the plan in place to do that? Now we're going to tack on another 467,000 gallons. How we deal with it? We got to have something in writing and in place. We just can't say, yep, we're going to do it. We've got an SSES study coming up that we're going to spend $300,000 on. In the last two studies, only removed 300,000 gallons of I&I combined. We have a problem, and it has to be addressed. And I think this is a really lousy problem to dump on a new super. So we've got to start working on it now. How we can improve everything we want, but we have to have a plan in place to deal with it. I mean, that's the nature of the beast. So you've given everyone that's got the pending long-term, including the future. If you combine them all, we've got to remove 1.8 million gallons a day. It's freaking impossible. The future alone is that we're going to be tacking in 101,000 gallons, which means we're going to have to remove 1.1 million. How are we going to do it? I don't have an answer. I don't think any of us do, but we got to come up with an answer. You just can't keep adding without subtracting something. Now, another interesting thing is, let's just look at Lydia Square for a minute. We got to, if you look at like for budget numbers on that, we know we got a problem with I&I over there already. Now, their money to go to that is what? I forget. They're only paying $5,700, $4,500. We're going to be spending $50,000 just to find the I&I over there. No, excuse me, I take that back. We'll probably spend in the vicinity of 15 grand to 20 grand trying to find out what the problem is. That's the worst case scenario, but we still have to fix it. So these are things that have to be addressed. And I don't know how you want to do it unless you got a way around it. Dave?
Well, I think we've already looked at the Lydia Square. I mean, I brought that up. It's got to be 4 or 5 months ago now. And I know Ed was able to pull up a lot of the numbers on that. So the I&I over there is that injector station that we need to upgrade, get that over to a grinding system. So that was the whole reason we passed that new grinding ordinance also. So when Lydia Square,
that would come under repairs. That wouldn't come out of the I&I money.
yeah, it's a combination, because it could come out of I&I because there's total infiltration because the water table is so high over in that area. I mean, Ed, you could attest to that just by your numbers on where we were in the dry season and where we've been spiking up, right? Ed?
Yep, sorry about that. Oh yeah, absolutely. We certainly see a significant increase during wet weather events over there too. And David, I don't know, since we're on the station, I mean, not to get off topic, but I think it kind of falls in line with what we're talking about with the issues that we've had at the station recently over the last couple of years, and especially the one that we had last month where we were out there digging up the vent line. I don't know if you want to speak, but that certainly says that, these stations need to be looked at. And if it could fall in line with I&I, I mean, that would help as well. But I mean, we certainly need to start looking at, replacing Spruce and Butternut, because they are becoming.
Where I'll challenge you on that though is, if you replace a pump station, that's not going to reduce the surrounding I&I.
It is though.
It is.
Yes. Ed, you want to elaborate on that, what we talked about, or?
I'm not sure if I agree with that, Dave. I'd have to hear your opinion on it, to be honest. I mean, I understand what Chuck's saying. Chuck's saying if we're just doing the station, we're not really addressing any of the immediate collection lines in that just specific vicinity right there. But if we're also going to tag in new lines from the new development that you're speaking of, absolutely, yes, be addressed by I&I.
Well, that's
I'm
thinking
a bigger problem then, because a station is going to, if we put that money to I&I, we're not looking at any of the other, we're gonna deal with that one area. That, all
Well-
right, we only collected 16,200 for I&I.
What we were looking at was the developers to pay for the upgrades on those stations. So there is specific I&I where the water table is, because there's infiltration in those areas. Whether
What
it's,
I'm saying is, we only have in I&I that we've collected in fees, however you want to break it down, for the approved projects, we only have $16,200 in approved I&I fees.
Right,
Right.
so Chuck, I think I understand what David's trying to say now, and David, I'm sorry, I didn't think of this at first, but what David's actually referring to is the issue that we had with the Spruce Station over, I think it was actually on Veterans Day. What happened there was the vent line from the station had collapsed, and when we actually got into digging that vent line up to replace it, the water table directly around that lift station, and I think this is where you're going, David, right? The water table directly at that lift station was so high that vent line was actually underwater when it collapsed and was just pouring water into the collection manhole. So I think you could make a case that by repairing that station and replacing that station, you would be repairing some I&I, because it's clear that we do have a high water table right there at that station. And when that vent line collapsed, it was coming right directly into the collection well.
Okay, then I'll agree with that, but what I'm saying is, we have $16,200 in I&I funds,
Right.
but it costs a little bit more than $16,000. So we got to start planning that now, because we're gonna have to go to the town for a big ticket item, article.
Right, and Rick and I have reached out for a budgetary proposal on replacing those stations, and they're gonna fall about $100,000.
Per
To
station.
yeah, to just do a conversion. So what they would do is they would rip out the existing equipment inside that pot. They would leave the existing liner there, and they would recoat it with like a waterproof cement coating that they would do, and then they would install submersible pumps into that station and bring all the controls and everything up above ground. And I think what David's saying is he's hoping on the contractor giving some funds.
That's Spruce Street, yes.
Right.
so, but what we were trying to do is, like, there's two stations that Ed referred to. We have the Spruce Station, which right now, we had a developer reach out to us, or a contractor, as you would, for over on Spruce Street.
Yeah, that's
So,
the point.
right, so if we worked with that contractor and by the time he gets done with his fees, if we could get, even if it was paid for half that station, and then we take a quarter of that out of I&I, which is about a quarter of I&I actually, involved with that, and then another half out of repairs and or another quarter out of repairs and maintenance, you're solving the issue of that station, and you're solving a lot of maintenance issues, you're solving I&I, and then also the builder is following up with some remediation as well. So
Okay.
it's a win for the town on something like that.
That is
Also-
definitely a win for the town, but what I'm telling you is, we still have got to meet our ordinance and EPA's ordinance of removing that total gallonage.
Right, absolutely. You have to. And I get what you're saying, and we have to sit down and come up with a complete plan.
I think we do.
We've been talking about it for the last 5 or 6 months. So we do.
Okay, well, let's get something in writing, because we're gonna have to go to the town for more money.
Well, that we'll have to talk about when we get to the budget, so.
Okay.
That be all?
You have the 11-to-1 ratio, Chuck? I mean, you kind of touched base on that as well, right?
Yeah, I touched base and I was looking at that 11-to-1 is not gonna go away, but in that ordinance, it still says it's up to the town's discretion. And in that, I thought we had agreed on a $20 a gallon fee. It still says 10, so I think that's got to be edited to reflect the 20 gallons,
$20.
$20. Excuse me.
So are you looking at on the developmental fee or the sewer remediation?
Remediation,
Okay,
under that 11-to-1 on page 19.
yeah,
I had it here somewhere. It says we could charge $10 a gallon.
which is what we've been doing. That's the
Yeah,
current.
but I think we should boot that to 20. I
So
thought
you-
we did agree to do that.
So we would have to, you would have to set that up on the next agenda so we could vote on that.
Didn't we? I thought, but that's what I'm getting at. Maybe I'm confused. I thought we did vote that to go to 20.
The
only-
development fee went to 20.
Yeah, so it did go. So we're
But
gonna
the
have to
sewer
add that
remediation
ordinance.
is 10.
Oh, excuse me, say that again?
The development fee, we went to $20 per gallon, and the remediation fee for I&I removal is still at 10.
So I think we should make them both 20.
So
What do you
you would have to vote on that at the next meeting. Yeah.
Okay, let's put it on the agenda for the next meeting. I'll write it up. I'm all set.
Okay. 2021 budget for maintenance and repair and account on I&I.
So I think Chuck touched base on that as far as trying
Yeah,
to get a larger payment out of the town, but
yeah,
as far as the budget, I do know that the town is, we're in a tough fiscal state right now as far as that's going. So I know as far as budgeting, everything's gonna be level funded this year coming up, because there's gonna be some cuts across the board. So-
You've got a lot more experience than I think what we're gonna have to do, and this probably comes up later on the, where is it? The Commissioner's year-end report. Walter, I think when you write that this year, you're gonna have to tell them that every year since 2007, we've been putting in that we need dire need of repairs, yada, yada. I think we've got to start throwing out some money. I don't think we're in the position we can wait until funding for an upgrade, because that's going to be a long slog uphill battle. So I think you got to stop bracing the people right now, especially at town hall, that we are falling short. We can't keep up with all these ads. That's the bottom line. We cannot keep adding unless we can take out. And to take out, we need the money to take out.
So that is something we can obviously address. And then the way I would approach it also, because you're not gonna be able to go to town meeting this year and ask for a $300,000 or $400,000 item. So if you're looking for I&I, we might be able to bolster an article for 100, 150, but just from current and past experience, we're not going to get any more than that. So there would be an article, and I would say you would write it out as inflow and infiltration article for repair work, and then that across the board. It's just like we've done in the past. If it's if you put it under a boiler system, then you got a little bit more flexibility on what boiler you're using it under and how we use it. I think Ed could attest to that. So you get a little bit more ways that you can spread that money out. So, I mean, I would suggest that we I can get an article together for I&I specific on repairs and updating. And then that gives you a lot of flexibility on how you could use it.
Okay, but I think we got to keep I&I separate from the repair, because you've got to drive the point home that we cannot keep proving all these new connections unless we can remove it. And we cannot remove it without the money. So if we can't get the money, then we have to stop approving.
Well, yeah, you have to go after developers. The developers have to pay for it.
Okay?
Yeah, you have.
When they come in.
I've been preaching that from day one. You have to make the developers pay for the I&I work. If you can't pay for the I&I work, you can't do the work.
And they can't get approved.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
And then you want to touch base on the sewer commissioner's year-end report?
pardon?
The sewer commissioner's year-end report. I believe in the past, John wrote that up and the commissioners approved it. Is that
Yes.
correct? Okay.
Yes,
You're going to still continue with that?
I'm fine with that. Yeah. Cause I mean, obviously it'll be a little lighter on where John, was out, I think in February, on some of the things that were done, but there was also, there's a lot of repairs that went on as well. So.
But I'd like to see that, I'd like the commission to review that before it's released. It hasn't
Yeah.
been done in the past.
Yeah, I'll get that report together and I'll just, I'll send it out to everybody so you guys could approve it. And
But
if you
what we
see
have to
something-
do is, we have to drive home the need, the message that we need money down here.
Well, yeah, I mean, that won't be.
And
in
I
the
know you
report.
can't get blood from a stone.
Yeah.
But we gotta let them know. I mean, these future build outs are scary numbers. I'll be honest with you.
No, without a doubt, that's why we did them. You know, keep in mind, you're looking at some of those proposed future ones like A.W. Perry and Union Point, you know, and then, you know, hopefully when you're doing the wastewater treatment plant facility, you know, obviously you guys, you're keeping that in mind on what you're gonna be for gallons a day, you know, the additional.
Yeah, but
And
again,
plan to
it's a
accommodate.
double-edged sword. And I think Ed will concur, EPA is not gonna grant us to discharge more than 2.5.
Right.
So again, what I'm saying is we're maxed out.
Yeah, on that note, I mean, we could have a plan in place to design the facility to handle peak flow, but Chuck's absolutely right. That 2.5 million gallons per day, that's going to be part of the NIPD's permit, and it's not going to go in anytime soon. That 2.5, we're going to be held to that permit-wise.
Yeah.
You can't really plan to take more than that, if you know, unless you want to plan on being in violation constantly. But so
Oh,
No.
hey, Ed, I just had a thought. Now, they're coming in next week, right?
correct.
What about above ground storage? To discharge during real low flow periods?
That is one of the items that we did ask them to kind of get creative with. So I think the thought was like an effluent storage tank.
Yeah,
Right.
that's what I'm thinking.
So we would be able to take more flow, and then you could hold whatever excess of our permit was. We would have some control. So like say we hit 2.5 discharge for the day, would shut off and start filling the offline, the storage tank. But that's only going to get you so far as well. I mean, you know,
No, I know.
talking right now, we're violating 2.5 6 months out of the year every year. So, I mean, a storage tank's only going to get you so far. Once
No,
that
but
storage,
the other thing I was thinking, if we could pump water to the golf courses or something like that.
yeah, that's a great idea. And you could, if you had some industry within the town that was willing to take and utilize some of our effluent, you could absolutely do that. You got to keep in mind too, that there's going to be a lot of cost involved with that as well. I mean, you're talking about piping and pump stations and how much demand is there in town too. So, I mean, but those are all things that have engineered out, obviously.
I got a question, Dave, do contractors, when they come up to do work, like say asphalting or that, where do they get their water? Can they come to us?
What, over to sewer?
Yeah.
Yeah, you could do a treated water for something like that if it was set up for it.
All right, we can talk about that Friday.
Yeah, I'm sure there'd be some regulatory approvals on that too, and I don't think that's something we could just start doing. That would have to get approved.
Yeah, you would have,
There's a permit for that.
Yeah, but it is an option we can look at, you know. Agreed.
All right, I'm done.
all right, so the 1015 Hingham Street, Don, are you there? Don
Yeah,
Bradford,
thank you. Yeah,
how you doing?
good. How are you? Hello, everyone.
You want me to just give a brief summary, Don, of what we talked about, or do you want to go over what your facility is going to be about? Or-
I can go over what the project is, and I can share any plans if you want. So it's located at 1015 Hingham Street, near the Hingham Town Line. It's a vacant lot. Right now, it was set up to be proposed as a 5,000 square foot retail building. But currently, right now, there's a marijuana dispensary use being proposed and going through the permit process with the zoning board and then the planning board. I met Dave out at the site. We looked over the plans. We came up with a sewer calculation based on retail, using Title V at 250 gallons per day. So it should be a fairly small user into the system. We have a sewer main about in the middle of the road in front of the site that we will be connecting to. Dave did give me a breakdown of the numbers. I don't know if you want to go over that, Dave. Are those the same numbers that we're talking about tonight? The ones that you had given me before?
Yeah, yes, so you have we based it off the 250 gallons a day on the 5,000 square foot building.
Mhm.
The developmental fee was 5,008. The connection fee was 750, and based off of the gallons per day was 2,504 on the remediation and removal. So that's the current rate right now. So.
Did you say 5,000 development fee or is it 10?
Oh, I'm sorry. It was 10. Sorry.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah, I'm looking at my old one and it was 10 because I made that note. I had a little asterisk next to it because I know that was voted in July. So,
Okay, yeah, so
Yeah.
it ends up, I had a total fee of $13,250. when I got-
that's correct.
Yeah.
So, and it does, so there's no, for the board, there's no cafeteria there, so no grease trap, no IPP regulations. It's not a growing facility, so it's gonna be looked at as a retail space at 250 gallons per day, so
That be all?
that's all I have.
Okay, we'll move on. Drain layers license.
No, you gotta vote, make a vote on that, Walter, on
Yeah.
moving forward with that.
On the
Make a
last
motion on that?
time we had a 1 month wait on the vote after they made their presentation.
Okay,
We approved that.
all right.
Is
Put
that
on
like-
Edwards Landscaping?
So, Dawn,
Yeah.
you're all set, so
Okay,
so what we'll do is we'll send out the paperwork,
Alright.
with the approvals at 1 month from today.
okay, would we be able to apply for a building permit prior to that? Is it just 1 month before we can make the connection, or they're trying to apply for a building permit in the next couple of weeks? I don't know how that's gonna interact with the permit application.
Oh,
Because I assume we're gonna need a sign off on the application from the sewer department to submit for the building permit.
right, so you're gonna do your building permit, and then the sewer commissions will have to sign it after that point. So it's gonna take you probably 2 to 3 weeks anyways to get the permitting process, and then you'd have to bring it in 1 month from today, and as long as everybody's in agreement, they would sign off on it. So,
Okay, I mean, I'm not familiar with the 1 month pause period here. Is that, what is the, just so I can explain it to everybody, why we have to wait a month before we get any sign offs?
My concern for waiting them the month is we have no plan in place for I&I removal. I mean, you are a small potatoes, granted,
Mhm.
and I'd be willing to waive that one, but I'm just not comfortable the way we're going.
well, we wouldn't be, we're looking at 250 gallons a day.
No, I
so-
understand that.
Yeah. So that's essentially if we,
I'd be willing to waive that one
Yeah.
and take
well,
a permit.
I wouldn't be looking at anything else if we were looking at a development, but like I said, this is
No,
essentially,
I understand that, and it's gonna be a boon economically to the town. So I hate standing in the way of that. I
Yeah.
have no problem with that.
right.
Dave, please understand, I just want to see a concrete plan in place for I&I.
Well, that's correct. We need to get together and do that.
And I think we've got to stop approving until we have one. But I think I'd make a motion that we approve 1015 for 600 gallons a day.
250 a day.
I'll second that. All
I
in
got
favor?
250 and 375
Where are you getting a 375?
on your build out. Office building, 1,000 square feet, 375 gallons per day, retail, 250.
Oh, no. That was just because when I did that, we didn't know what they were using the space for. So if it was office space, the gallons would have
Oh,
been different.
okay.
That's why I did that build out a while ago. So like I
So
said,
what's he gonna use for gallonage?
it's 250. It's based on, 50 gallons, 1,000 square feet. So that's 250 gallons a day.
Have we ever, do we put flow meters on new connections? To verify flow?
Pardon?
Do we
I
put
haven't-
flow meters on to verify flow?
I have never heard of that as far as I've been here, so.
Okay. I make a motion, we approve 1015 Hingham Street. 250
sec-
gallons a day.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right,
We'll be
you're
in
all,
touch. Thank you very
Alright.
much.
all right, thank you, John.
Thanks.
Next one, Walter?
Yeah, number 7, drain layers license approval. Nick Edwards Landscaping.
So he had 3 reference letters, one from the city of Quincy, city of Brockton, and also the town of Ashland. So I reached out to all 3. The city of Brockton gave him a good reference, and then also the city of Quincy did too. The town of Ashland, we played phone tag with, but the 2 out of 3 anyways, both said he's been doing work in the past and still doing work there, and he does good work.
Actually, David, I'm sorry. We
Yeah.
did get a final one from the town of Ashland as well.
Oh, they reach out to you today then?
Yes.
Okay, so then we have three good references for the drain layer.
And
Okay,
we have the bond and both insurance requirements, and the fee is paid.
So not sure in the past, so is there a max on how many drain layers you have in town, or is it anybody that wants to apply for that you guys have normally done, Chuck and Walter?
I
I
never,
have no idea.
Okay, I couldn't find anything
No.
on it, so, all right. I was just curious.
I think that'd be something, and if you want to put a cap on it, that would be up to the superintendent.
All right.
yeah,
So you guys have to make a vote on that, Walter, on the drain layer.
yeah, I make a motion that we accept it. Drain layers license for Edwards Landscaping.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Capital planning, Chuck, you wanted that on there?
Yeah, I just want to know how we're gonna, again, I want to be specific, how we're gonna divide up I&I from repairs. I don't think we're getting ahead of the game, or I think we're punishing ourselves and the town by robbing I&I to do repairs on pumps and what have you. So,
Well, no, you wanna make sure I&I is going to I&I.
that's right, 100%.
Right. I'm not deviating from that. What we've currently been doing. I mean, I would definitely put an article in like you referenced, maybe for 100, 150. So that's ongoing. So we can do that I&I work, to go along with the I&I study that we have starting in the spring.
Well, hold on one second. You're gonna say 150,000?
100 or 150, and that's if we can get it voted on.
Okay, that $150,000 would probably remove about 120,000 gallons of I&I. It's still, and they'd have that, we're not keeping up with what we approved. And again, I just want to keep driving that home, so it's on the record and people are aware of that. So when we start rejecting people for permits, it's nothing new. And what are you gonna put in for let's say pump stations? Have you handled them in the past by just addressing them as separate entities as repair? Like if you want to replace Spruce Street, that goes to me, that is repair. So what would you put in for repair for Spruce Street?
Are you looking at?
You
Ed?
asking, Chuck?
Who are you asking?
Ed,
Okay, so like I
you're gonna
mentioned,
budget to repair on Spruce Street. What is the number you would use?
so as I mentioned before, Rick and I did get a budgetary proposal for Butternut Lane, which is very similar to Spruce, and it was about $100,000, and that was for a conversion. So like I said, they'd be ripping out all the existing equipment inside of the current pneumatic pot station, and they would be converting that over into a submersible pump wet well style station.
Okay, now without that development going in on Spruce Street, that pump station would still have to be repaired, correct?
100%, yes.
Okay.
Yes,
So
both,
you
but
should put in $100,000 for that alone. Now, what
Both-
other, are you aware of any pumps, motors, or anything else that gotta be done down there?
if just lift stations, I mean, I have some other things here.
What
you know,
about the facility? Just
Right,
the
so-
facility.
So first off, I have in my notes here for the Hingham South spare pump that we discussed last week. I was gonna go over it during, when it was my turn to speak, but, we had sent that spare pump out to be repaired, and the shop is having a lot of trouble with it, and it looks like the repair, cost is starting to creep up to be, if we were to fall through that, to be about half of what the cost of replacement would be, and the replacement's gonna be about 30,000. So that's one item that we're probably gonna be looking for.
Okay, just for an example now, if you had to repair that now, you had to go for the 30,000. Do we have that 30,000 in the budget to do it?
I can't speak to that. I mean, so
We
the
do-
way, so from Suez perspective, anything under $5,000, we would pay for under our R&M. Anything above the 5,000 would be considered a capital expense, and that would fall to the town. And then you guys would source the funds for that. However, I mean, at that point, I can't tell you guys how you would fund it. That's up to you, the board and the sitting commissioner, Dave, or the new one. So
Well, if that went, Dave, do we have 25,000 in the repair bill?
We do.
So what I can speak to is, I know in the past, when John Laughlin was here, what he would normally do is every year, he would sit down with Rick and I, and we would kind of go over a capital improvement list, like a wish list. And he would go over and we'd kind of pick out which ones were the most significant, and he would put those through for articles, I believe is the process that he would follow.
That's correct.
Well, how about this for, and again, I'm just throwing it out there. And but nobody take this personal. I'm just bouncing another thing off. We haven't had a full-time superintendent. Could we transfer that money out of the superintendent's salary and put it into repairs?
Well, we are a bottom line budget, so if we happen to go negative on one area, we could use that money.
Why don't we just do that? Because we should have 30,000 in excess there.
You can't transfer it though. What you can do is, like I said, you would have to go negative on another ledger item, and
Okay,
then that would have to make up for it.
all right, I follow.
Right. So we have a little money to play with, is what I'm saying.
So are you gonna replace that pump or?
Well, Rick, that was gonna be talks for this week on capital projects, but Rick had a death in the family, so we'll be talking about that probably at some point next week. So
All right,
I know there's a pretty big wish list, so.
again, drive it home on your year-end report.
Yeah, so the only other capital project which actually falls under 50,000 is the pump station maintenance, which was I thought could use a little updating around the pump stations, like the vegetation, trees, brush. I thought we should put something on a small article for that, so we could get everything away from the fences, and it's a little easier to maintain. So we
Okay,
don't-
again, I'm not used to how the town works, but just out of curiosity, is that something the park department could do? The tree department?
It is, but it's one of those things where we've been, you're not supposed to commingle a lot of that. So, and then those departments are fairly busy when this needs to get done. So it's probably something that could be maintained once the initial process is done. I mean, it's not every station, but there's some issues at the station with vegetation growing over, and it's a little messy. I imagine it's probably a little hotter in the winter when you got snow and ice on it, and the guys have to go out and maintain a station. I know at Spruce, there was a lot over that way. Even if everything was just cut back, it would be easier, I think, for the guys maintenance wise in the future.
Can
And
you
then
put a number on it? Can you put a number?
Yeah, it's not a lot. I mean, Gary went out and he looked at it a bunch and took some pictures, and I went out and, you're looking at between 18 and 25, you know what I mean? So you could get some big trees taken away, and, if you could cut around like 10 feet away from the perimeter of the fencing, then, maybe you're not gonna have issues, you put all that money into those pump stations and some of those newer ones, you don't want a tree falling on it and then having these guys having to deal with that. So if we can, just for future, if we can do that, I think it's gonna be easy to maintain. It's a small thing, but I think down the road, it's gonna be an issue with some of those stations. So just looking at it. So, and then so the art article for the I&I, that small article for tree and brush, and then whatever Rick and Ed had, coming up, as far as that on the boilers, maybe I imagine there's going to be a pump or two. I know they talked about like to have a backup pump for some of these stations. So that would be smart, for the town to invest in something like that, to have that pump ready to use. So if we could, put an article on for pumps as well as that, upgrades on that. So.
Yeah, if you guys want to give us a deadline for some of those items, I can sit down with Rick when he's back next week and we can start working on it. I believe it was around this time every year that John would be asking for them, right? To submit.
Once you're into December, the end of January is when we got to get the budgets, we're working on the budget right now. And then, but as far as capital planning, like it's all got to coincide. So anything over 50 has to go to capital planning as well, as far as budgetary items. So if you guys get on that for the next week or so, and then,
quite honestly, top of my wish list would be either butternut or spruce. Really, if we could start moving the ball on one of those, and if we have to put aside some other projects to get one of those stations done, I'd really like to see that. Those are just a nightmare for the guys as far as cost and maintenance. It's just one thing for another with those stations.
Yeah, because we were out the other night when we had the storm, and I just wanted to see what the guys actually have to go through, and it is a little bit of a project without a doubt. But we've been talking about spruce and also butternut. So if we could actually put an article on for that, to at least cover one, and then if we could even get a developer, that developer, helps pay for that, and then we have that money, then maybe another developer, and we're sitting on that money and we have to carry it over. We might be able to get two done over the next few years, at least one done, and then maybe in 2 or 3 years, the other one. So that's going to cut down on maintenance, and there's definitely I&I there, and then it's an R&M thing as well. So if we can cut it down for you guys, and it's going to cut it down for the town as well. So, but I think that you make a good point of maybe getting an article on that on a station.
I think that absolutely be worthwhile.
Yeah, I would say throw everything down and prioritize it.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a priority, and I know Ed's been, touching base on it, and obviously we saw it firsthand over at Spruce Street too. So, it's an older station. They both are. So,
No, and I know I'm beating a dead horse, but please be cognizant of the fact we need that I&I money. One more back thing about I&I. I was talking to the gentleman over at the water department, just food for thought out there. They're bantering about putting a moratorium on 10 units, no more than 10 units.
That's correct.
Well, they made progress on that. But if they do something like that, that may be something we want to tie on to.
You would have to. So talk to Joe about that. So Joe's been working that, as well as the ordinance is not allowing irrigation systems anymore as well, where we waive some of those fees. So
but I think whatever we do, we tie in unison with them that if they're going to put a limit on 10 units, we say we don't approve anything more than 10.
Yeah, you're gonna have to work with the other department on that too. Yeah, without a doubt.
Okay.
Yep. Anybody else on capital planning or?
No, just as soon as you see the numbers, I'd be curious to see them.
Yeah. So, as far as the superintendent report, so there was actually quite a bit of repair work actually this month. So, we did the normal markouts for the dig safes, and I still doing the grease trap inspections between 5 and 7 in the morning. Ed made reference to that Spruce Street station with the vent pipe. So that went down at the weekend before Veterans Day. So we were able to get a contractor to come in on Veterans Day. So like Ed referenced, there is a water issue over there. We had a couple pumps going just to keep it pumped down to get the excavation. The vent pipe was replaced. We tied that into the structure, as well as the sump pump pipe. And that was, we replaced that while we had the hole open. And Ed, you followed up with the electrical on that, I believe? Is that correct? You're,
Yes, I did. Yeah, we replaced the, it was a low voltage, float, just the high level float that goes into the manhole. We were able to dig the conduit up and, replace it, put an all new conduit and a new cable. So that's all set as well. So that's all new.
right. And so and then we also, we plugged up the old holes and where the leaks were on that, sewer manhole as well. So we did, we did solve a few issues over there. We had Holdley come out and tie that vent pipe in. So the only thing different is that vent pipe is external as opposed to being internal now, because we were afraid once we got into that, if we where that vent pipe came in and was at a low point with a water table, we might not have been able to gain that back. So Ed was in agreement. We went with the vent pipe on the external part. We're not going to have an issue with it. We'll pave that area over, and then we're going to bring a large barrier so in front of that, so there's no issues with that, whether it be for plowing or any other maintenance there. So, but I think that's all. So
Before you go forward, Dave, I just want to clarify the importance of a vent pipe on here. So when we're talking about a vent pipe, what we're actually referring to is in order for these pot stations to fill, there has to be an air release that comes up from the actual pot at the bottom of the station and goes back into the wet well, and that allows the pot to fill. So what happened when this vent pipe collapsed is it prevented the actual pots from filling. So all of that sewage that was coming in intended to go into the pot in the station and then be redirected up into the force main wasn't able to enter the station. So we were actually just getting backed up in the inlet manhole there. So I just wanted to make sure we were clear on, it wasn't like an air vent for the station. This was actual like a mechanical process part of the station that was critical to that station being able to continue to operate. And that's it.
thanks, Ed. Yeah, so that in the original pipes used were a metal pipe, and then we upgraded that to a Schedule 80 pipe, plastic. So there also was we did some sewer manhole work at night on Hingham Street. I mean, John had a list of some sewer manholes that were in need of repair and were fracturing. So we had to do it at night because a lot of that was over by Home Depot and the on ramps and exit ramps. So obviously we did that at night. We were able to complete all those. We did some day work as well to finish up on Hingham Street, Wheeler Ave, and a couple other miscellaneous sewer manholes. We also did, and I think I touched base on this the last meeting and the meeting before, there were 2 sewer manholes off of the back of Nevin Circle where we have an open trench drainage, and they were very low and they were old. And so what we did is we raised those up 2 feet, and we added the new sewer manhole covers that are sealed, bolt down sealed manhole covers. So it was a good I&I find as far as that. We have somebody scheduled to come out and actually do external waterproofing on those as well. So, because those are right by, if anybody's familiar with it, right by the rail trail where we're catching everything, and that stream goes under the rail trail, and that's everything from the base, Spruce Street, and everything on that side of Union that comes by Nevin. So it's a high water table there. So
Are those both in Rockland, or is one in
Yeah.
Abington?
no, they're both in Rockland. So it was just over the Abington Rockland line, right at the bridge there.
Yeah, I
So-
seen them the other
Yeah.
day, 2 of them.
Yeah.
How
So
far down? Pardon?
Yeah. Yeah, so we raised them up 2 feet on both of them, and so that'll keep it out of the water table. So we'll see how we make out. But those would be that I would like to do a flow monitor there, even if it's something just to see what we actually have flowing through there. So in the future anyway. So we also had we had an incident up on Exchange Street. I think it was a couple weeks ago, Ed. Was it 2 weeks ago? I think on the grease that we ended up.
So it was actually the week of the Spruce Street as well, I believe.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so it was a busy week. So we ended up chasing that back. So there's an easement that comes in the back of 375, 365, and 361 Union Street. So that's Minero's and also Porter's Pub, if anybody's familiar with that area. So there's an easement that runs through the back there. But I've never seen anything like that. And I think Ed could attest there was a ton of grease, and that was 2 manholes down on Exchange Street it was a mess. So we ended up vacuuming, jetting, and then we ended up chasing it back up into behind there where the easement was. And I had it cameraed Monday. So we did find there was a mystery manhole that's buried on the corner of that property. So we have a contractor coming out next week to find that. So what's happened is the tree's actually grown on top of the sewer manhole. So we'll have to cut the tree in our easement and then raise that manhole up. So Board of Health was brought in on it because those are both IPP. They're both internal grease traps and not external. So it was before the IPP program came up, and one of the businesses was out of compliancy. So that is something we're going to have to we'll have to pursue. That's on the table. So once we find out how we are at that manhole, we'll have everything all extracted, and we'll probably we'll pursue that with the Board of Health on that business. So I think that's pretty much it. And then for the superintendent update, I did want to thank everybody. I know we're putting out for the superintendent, and I did not.
Well, could I ask one more quick question, Dave?
Yeah, go ahead.
Was there an issue at Lydia Square? Did they hit a sewer pipe or a water pipe?
That was a water main. So what happened, there was an old hydrant there that they were trying to tap into. So the weight of the hydrant broke off the old ATC pipe over there. So that was water.
Sewer line.
Yeah, the sewer line, there's a moratorium after November 15th. So we told them they couldn't cut into the road to hook the sewer up
Okay.
right now. They'll have to wait till spring to do that.
All right.
So, because especially with the high water table there, obviously we don't want anybody cutting into, attracting that where the building's not up yet. We have enough I&I problems right now. So we don't want to
Okay,
do that.
one more thing before you go. You haven't heard any more on that brewery, have you?
We
Because
have,
it's
it's
coming up to the zoning.
yeah, it's in the rumor mill right now. There's from what I understand, reached out to a couple people, and they had a couple places. It was where the old bowl line building was on the corner of VFW Weymouth Street. And then they're also looking at the old Kathy Corrigan's, but that's a whole different bag once you're dealing with a brewery. So there's a
Absolutely.
whole bunch of different compliances that they have to, outside storage, inside storage. So, we'll get to that as far as what we have to do.
No, I didn't know if you heard any more on that, because one of the things I push for is a closed loop system.
No, yeah. It has to be something that has to be on site. So depending on what they're doing. So
I'd like to see how water's going to handle that, because that is going to be a bear on them.
yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I've heard some of the microbreweries before actually trucking in water and having it internal storage for some of those in other towns and cities, like they're bringing special water. So maybe it's not going to be an issue. I'm not sure. I'm not into the microbreweries like a lot. So, but no, that's about it. And like I said, as far as the superintendent update, I know they're going to be doing an interview schedule coming up. And I just appreciate everybody down here. Well, I did the interim, so I did not put in an application for that, only because the town isn't set up for it. But I did enjoy being down here. I learned a lot, and it is an aspect that I like doing. So, but I wish the new person well, whoever that is, in the next month or two. I know it's going to be a process. So, we'll be look forward to working with them. If there's any
I
questions.
think we still have to talk about maybe a 2-month extension, but we could do that down the road.
Yeah, it's purely up to you guys, however you guys want to handle that. So I did say, as long as you guys need me here, I'll stay here, interim until, we bring somebody else in. So that's pretty much it.
Okay, I guess that's it. Walter, did you get a copy of the letter that's got to be read into the meeting?
No, I didn't.
It was sent to you. It was sent to,
I can speak to that.
pardon me?
Yeah. I can speak to that.
Okay, go ahead.
I reached out to Chris, the attorney, and he said we really don't need to read it into the record because it already went to all three of you and you had a chance to read it, and this is not an open meeting, so he advised about not reading it into the record.
Okay, but I would like to have that posted in the minutes, that letter included in the minutes. a copy of that letter.
Well, that's up to Walter.
I think it's a vote on it. That letter was asked to be read at the public. I think it's pertinent on the position. It's a very well-written letter, and it nails it right to the point. I think it should go into the record.
Okay, well, that's up to you and Walter to vote on if you'd like.
Walter? You haven't had a chance to read it yet, have you?
No. And
Okay.
I
It was sent to
think
you.
Ron should be here too.
Huh?
No, to okay this or whatever, to make a motion on this, I think Ron should be present also.
Well, I still think it should go into the minutes. I want to go on the record saying I believe that letter from Mr. Egan should be read into the file, or where they don't want to read into the file, it should be attached to the minutes. It is pertinent. It is right to the point. So if you want to wait till Ronnie's back, we can vote on whether it be read. But I think where that was mailed, it's a document. I think it has to be in the file, and it has to be in the minutes.
I'm just going to abstain on that. And
Okay, no, I understand where you're coming from, but I think it should, and I'd like Chris Kenny rule on that. I think it should be in the minutes. If you don't want to read it into the record, that's one thing, but it should be included in the file.
mhm.
Okay. The Stacy Callahan gave us 3 options. First of all, Walter, have you had a chance to go up and review the resumes?
No, I haven't. I did get a letter or email from Stacy
Huh.
on. It wasn't, there was no names of the applicants. I'm not sure how many they have.
I did take a look at them. Out of the 11 or 13 or whatever, I think there were 13.
Yeah,
One really jumped out. I mean, he's a PE, he's got the background. However you want to go through this process, we've got to take a vote on it because I think it's dragged on way too long. We've got a lot of big things coming up. So I think you and I can nail down what option we want to pursue. Stacy, you got any input?
No, there's 11 applicants right now. Dave's not a part of that pool. I think the original group may have had him in and one dropped out due to a hiring in another town. So there's 11 total applicants right now.
The only thing I'd like to add to that, Walter, I don't want to divulge any names, any background as such, but there is 2 real good, strong candidates that have not backed out as yet. And what I'd like to do is expedite this process as best we can before they take another opportunity. So.
And is it okay to speak?
Please, no, go ahead.
Yeah.
I did reach out, just so you're aware. I reached out as the applicants sent in their resumes. I reached out right away to let them know that we received it and that we'd be in touch. And then I reached out again in November after since there was no meeting in November that we were kind of, I was expecting was going to happen. The original timeline I had given the applicants was most likely interviewed in November and, hopefully a hire by December. So since that has gotten bumped out, I did notify each of the applicants, and all of them except for that one said they are still interested. And I told them that it would probably be sometime this month, hopefully, that we would be reaching out to at least schedule interviews. But I said it was all dependent upon this meeting and how you're looking to proceed with the process.
Well, Walter, I know we have a lot of disagreements amongst each other, but I've narrowed it down to 7 technically qualified, that if you want to meet me or meet with Stacy and review them yourself, which I recommend you do. I think we could at least schedule those 7 for preliminary talks. Stacy, please jump in.
I want to make sure that you vote on the right process. And that's what that email was
Okay,
about.
okay.
Because what we have to do is vote on what you need to do is vote on the process first. Because everything you decide to do is, if you're going to pre-screen and bring people in on your own, it's perfectly fine. That's one of the options. You can do it. But it all has to be done in open meeting.
Okay.
So for the sake of people, there's applicants out there that have current positions and may not want their employers to know that, especially if they're not a finalist.
Yep.
So I think you need to think about how you want the process to go before you have somebody in.
Okay, we have that process that you recommended. Could you, if you don't mind, could you, for the record, tell us our 3 options?
Sure. So option 1 is the SOAR board could delegate authority to town employees, such as the town administrator or HR, to pre-screen the candidates. Do you want me to go into the entire email I
think you
sent, or
should.
just the quick and dirty of the options?
I'll leave it up to you.
Okay, so, well, one of the major advantages of this option is that it's not subject to the open meeting law, and therefore the reviews of resumes, interviews do not need to be in an open meeting. Also, as the superintendent position requires technical experience and knowledge, we could also bring in or delegate authority from an outside consultant to sit in with the interviews, as far as, or if you vote on a SOAR committee member, for the technical expertise piece of it.
Okay, if we opt.
Because
if we go that
obviously-
route, we have to pay for that, correct? If we go with an outside source.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
If we take option 1 and opt for an outside source, we obviously have to pay for that.
Well, no, the option 1 would be to delegate it to the town administrator or HR or both, however you want to do it. This is option 1. And then by your approval, or we could talk about it, we can have somebody else, like, for example, maybe a superintendent in another town that might have some expertise specific to, the SOAR needs. I mean, I can give you some of the greatest questions in the world, but if somebody answers a question regarding to SOAR pipes or drainage or whatever it is, it could be the most wonderful explained answer in the world, and I would have no idea if it was right or wrong.
No,
So the idea behind that would be to bring somebody in that would know the ins and outs of those questions.
My concern with that is that this is a very small industry and loose lips sink ship.
Okay,
If
Well-
we go with option 1, I'm going to throw my name out that I'd like to work with whoever the town employees that we designate as far as the technical expertise. We'll let the board vote on that. Walter, you and I can decide that tonight. I just don't see the need to go outside of town. I think we keep this as close to the vest as possible, because as Stacy said, people have jobs.
right. So that's option 1. Option 2 would be the SOAR board could notify the Board of Selectmen if they'd like the Board of Selectmen to form a pre-screening committee. Under the town charter, only the Board of Selectmen has the authority to create temporary and/or ad hoc committees. Therefore, the Board of Selectmen would need to form the pre-screening committee. There's a lot more to this email that I'm not going to read the entire
No,
thing.
you just sum it up, Stace.
Yeah, so, but one of the, you could also designate a SOAR board to be part of that pre-screening committee, but with this option, it's just going to take additional time all over again. So you're going to have to vote to have the Board of Selectmen form a pre-screening committee, and then we'd have to form the pre-screening committee in order to then start the interview process. Also, something to recognize with that is on the pre-screening committee, after doing some research, you wouldn't be able to choose the town administrator or the assistant town administrator in this pre-screening committee if you were looking to choose them, because they don't live in the town. Option 3, the SOAR board can screen or review all of the candidates themselves, but this goes back to what we were talking about. You're certainly welcome to do that. It's just that it would be an open meeting. So what I recommended if you did choose this is maybe take all of the names off of the resumes and, code them A, B, C, D, 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever you choose. In the end, if somebody, puts a public records request in, they could certainly get that information. But for the sake of people that are applying for this job that have other positions elsewhere, it's not really beneficial for them if they're not a finalist to want their name out there that early in the process.
And I would, Walter, what's your feelings on it?
I want to go with option 1.
Would you allow me, or would you consider me to be as far as the technical?
Pardon?
Would you object to me sitting in on the technical part of it? I mean, it's a vote to who we accept, but I think I know the questions to ask or what we should look for.
Yeah, and Chuck, just so you, I think I actually had emailed Chuck, or we had been emailing back and forth quite a few times through this process, and something to be aware of is that as far as the interview questions, I have lots of them, but I would obviously be looking for your input as far as, specific questions you would want, or maybe Dave might have some input as far as the job itself, to be able to make sure you do get those technical questions in there. And Chuck, it's fine with me, whoever you choose. I just want to make sure it's not always about the questions we ask. We just need to make sure you understand the answers that are coming back in. Again, that just goes to, you need to know the job, and maybe you do. I can't answer.
I'm comfortable.
I just want to make sure whoever that person is, we can ask the right questions, but the answers is what's really going to validate,
Well, if there's an objection to me, then I would like to recommend to Jack Egan. He's got the experience. He's a resident. But, or unless you allow me to do it, unless you want to take a vote on whether I could do it, Walter.
I don't see anything wrong with having you do it.
Okay. Again, it's a vote. What I would like Stacy, and here's where I don't know if it's a conflict of interest because of report. I would like to also solicit questions from Suez.
Oh, no, that's fine. I actually had already planned on reaching out to them. They were one of the ideas, going through this process that I was thinking that maybe they might be helpful sitting in on the committee, but there may possibly be, I am not sure if there are any.
I'm not comfortable with that because they're going to be a report to them. So I wouldn't be comfortable with that.
Okay.
I would like to screen them one more time with you present. Give the 7 or 8 or whoever we select, Walter, once I narrow it down to that, have you look at them. Or sit with me and I'll tell you why I think this is A, B, C, D, E, how I'd rate them.
Okay.
But I think you and I have got to sit down and look at them.
Mr. Chairman, could I say something? Because I've had experience doing this. I want to say, because I have done many screening committees as a selectman. What I'm going to say is, because you are such a small group and there's only 3 of you, designating Chuck to do the screening would be a good idea. But the minute you add another commissioner, that becomes a quorum.
Right.
In a screening committee, the only job you have is to just pare down the candidates that you think are best, but those candidates have to be presented to the sewer commissioners in public.
Okay, but let me ask you a question, Mary. If I pare them down, like Walter said, I could look at them and pare them down. Can I review them with him to explain my reasons why?
I don't think you're going to need to, because if you have the expertise, you could explain it to Stacy.
Right.
Okay.
Chuck, I don't think you can, because again, like what Mary said,
Right.
where you're
Right,
such a small board, the 2 of you can't meet unless it's an open meeting.
Okay.
And
No, I'd like
talking
to
about
This is all
But
Greek
Chuck,
to
I
me.
think the important thing that we need to, the idea of number one is to whittle it down to your top 3 candidates to bring, or 4, or, whatever the board decides. Usually it's at least 3. Actually, it has to be at least 3.
Right, you can't bring it down to 1. That's what you can't do.
No, you can't. Right. So the idea would be, for the option number 1 to interview, say 7 people. And then you bring your top 3 people, most qualified people, to the board of the sewer commissioners, so that you can then interview publicly and decide, who your best candidate is. So in the end, whether Walter is in that process from the beginning or not, he's going to end up being part of that process
Okay, I follow.
with the highest amount of talent. And truthfully, if you were to sit on this, it would really be, again, it's just for the interview process to get them down to the top 3.
Okay,
And
now let me ask you one other question. Would you be doing the vetting? Would you be checking the backgrounds?
yes, we will do a full background. So once we actually get to a point where you want to hire somebody, then we go out and we do a full background check. You wait until there's an offer, there's a waiver they have to sign, so that they are aware that we're doing a full background check. It's not just a query. We do the full check on everything. We use Access Investigations.
Okay, and you and I set a time Monday to get together?
Yeah, sure.
I'll leave it up to you what time Monday, if you could. I mean, I got the grandkids tomorrow, so.
Did we
And
have a
there's
vote on
nothing-
it?
Well, what was that, Robin?
Don't we have to have a vote on how we're going to proceed first?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Well, Walter, I make a motion, we go at number 1 and I'll screen them.
I'll second that.
Oh,
In favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Can I just say one more thing? There's nothing that prohibits any of the sewer commissioners from checking the resumes too.
Right.
You can do that too,
yes.
if you so choose.
Yeah, and I actually put that in that email that I sent to them, Mary. So they've all had the opportunity, if they choose, to come in and look at all of the resumes.
I would like that opportunity to check on their background, but I'd want to do it with Stacy present while I'm making those inquiries.
Oh, that's okay.
Chuck, I think I'm confused on what you're talking about with the check on the background.
I don't know, when if we check on, like say not a previous, previous employer or however you want to do it, I want to make sure they're technically competent. And I'm going to ask them certain questions.
Well, no, so Chuck,
Go ahead.
I think you're getting ahead of yourself. So the first thing, what we would have to do is take a look at all of the resumes. I mean, we wouldn't be contacting anybody.
Oh, okay, no, I understand.
Sit down in a room, look at all of the resumes, get the top qualified people that we want to interview. And it doesn't, if we have 11 people and there's only 5 people that are qualified, then we would, interview 5. If there's 11 qualified and you want to interview all of them, then we could do that. But
Stacey, all I'm asking, Stacey, is I'd like you present as much as possible when I'm going through this.
yeah, well, so I guess that's my point, Chuck. You won't be going through this alone. If you choose option 1, it would be, well, you'd have to designate who is going to lead that. You can say HR, you can say the town administrator, but you need to designate who's going to lead that. And then we could ask you, we can have you a part of that. It looks as though you could vote, you just voted to have yourself a part of it. So that should be fine.
Right.
But
I'll talk it over with you Monday.
We'll vet the applications, and then I'll reach out to whoever we want to interview. So we'll schedule a date. I'll reach out to say, we want to have this blah, blah, blah. And then we'll have a date. We'll interview these people over a course of a couple of days or maybe one day, whatever it is. And then from there, if we have to have second interviews, we'll have second interviews. If not, we'll just take the top 3 and it will go to the sewer commissioners for you to make your final determination. And I can have second interview questions for you guys, for all of you to answer.
You got to be careful on any second interviews because it's just an initial interview according to open meeting law, and you've got to go by the open meeting law. But what I was going to say is, Chuck, what you're going to do is read the resumes. That's what you're going to do first. If you want to check some of their references, that's fine. Then when you do the interview, you have that initial interview, but you've pared it down from the resumes with
Okay.
state or whomever.
I follow. I'm set. Stacy, I'll leave it up to you to say when you're free Monday.
Were you gonna, excuse me, it's Robin. Were you gonna vote on anyone else to be on the panel, or is it just gonna be Chuck and Stacy?
I would say Stacy and Chuck and Stacy. Stacy, you got an objection to that?
No, I don't have any objections.
Let's just get the process going.
And that's it for Walter too?
Pardon?
You voted yes.
Yes.
Right, but my question was a different question than what you voted on. I was asking if you wanted to vote for anyone else to be on the panel.
So did you want the town administrator or the assistant town administrator, or I don't know, somebody?
I thought they were automatically
I
gonna
know,
be there.
Well, you didn't say that. That's why I asked the question. So far, it looks like you only voted for Chuck to be on the panel.
I
You
thought he
didn't-
was
You
just gonna
didn't
be
actually
an
even vote for
additional
Stacy.
on the panel.
Right, we voted for Chuck to be on the
I
panel,
think
but
the
no
no-
one
so
else.
I
You didn't
think
even
there's a-
actually vote for Stacy to be on the panel. So I was just asking for clarification on who you would like to be on the panel and if you would like to vote for that.
Robin, I don't think he needs to, because number one, it's the sewer board could delegate authority to a town employee. So if they're voting to delegate the authority to me,
That's what I'm asking because they didn't say that.
then I would get to choose, or I would say, obviously based on the board, but you know, who could be a part of the interview. So at that point, if they vote for Chuck to be on it, then Chuck would be there. But then I believe I could delegate who, if we want anybody else on there.
Right,
Because
so
he's
because
given
they
the
vote,
authority over to number one is given the authority over to the town person, the town official that you're delegating, or the town employee that you're delegating the
right,
process.
but during that vote, they only said Chuck. So I was just asking for clarification. They didn't say Stacy, they didn't say Doug, they didn't say anyone but Chuck. So I'm just asking for clarification.
Okay,
No, I had asked for Stacy as well. So I just took that for granted, should be a part of it.
Then vote.
I agree with that, but I think Doug should also be there.
that's fine. I can
That's
have.
fine with me.
Pardon?
That's
Yep.
fine with me.
If you delegate, yeah, that's fine. We can add Doug. I think it's a good idea to have either the town administrator or the assistant, because I think it's important with the role that person's in. They're gonna have to work closely with that person. So I think it's important, you know, anyways.
Well, I'll make a motion to have Stacy, Chuck, and Doug on the panel for,
Or Jennifer, one of the two.
or
So
Jennifer,
I
yeah.
think I just want to make sure it's clear, because I think the vote would be to delegate the authority to a town employee. So I think you would be voting to delegate that to me, if that's what it sounds like. And then, yes, we can have Doug and Chuck on it, but I think the vote's to delegate the authority to a town employee.
Okay, I'm all in favor of that.
I am too.
Okay,
Oh.
so Stacy, just let you make the arrangements and tell me when and where.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So I guess number 12 is up to what the last item is up to what we come out with screening.
Yes, and I think probably we just have to coordinate schedules.
All right,
We'd have to get together and screen, and then we'd have to, you know, coordinate schedules for interviews with everybody.
okay, with that, I guess I'll make a motion to end the meeting.
No, could I say one more thing on that subject that didn't come up? Is when you do your interviews, you have to ask the same questions of each and every interviewee, and they have to be separate room where they can't hear the questions. That's
Yeah.
all I wanted to say.
No, I'm
Right.
over that.
Mary, yep. And just to add to that, and I actually talked to Chuck about this already, that in the past, or how I do almost all of the interviews, is the same questions for the panel. We usually, it seems foolish, but we color coordinate. So every person usually asks the same question in every interview. And then that way it's just kind of, it flows it's a nice flow. So it does, it just it kind of flows nicely. So,
I think,
Right,
we're-
and that will go for when the sewer commissioner, when the entire commission interviews what it's pared down to.
yes, of course.
I'm done.
Okay,
The last thing, Walter, we got to get together on, I have the plaque for Sean.
yes,
I really would like to give that to him soon. I don't know when you'd be available. Rick, I mean, Ed, I don't know how you want to work it with Rick out, but I think it would be a nice touch to have the Suez guys
yeah.
picture when he gets the plaque.
Well, we'll check with Rick Monday
All right.
or whenever he gets back.
Yeah, Ed, you set it up. I know he's got his hands full.
Okay.
Yeah,
Very
I
good.
can-
I'll make a motion in the meeting.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. See you later.
Good night.